Right. Then safety. Make sure we don't get kidnapped, right?
Safety. I think in Paraguay we have, of course, some armed groups that are dangerous, but they are really far from where the people are really living. For example, they are in the north part of Paraguay. We normally have a higher population in the south part of Paraguay, in Asuncion and other cities where we have the borders with Argentina and Brazil. But like I'm telling you, normally you find some cities that are dangerous to live, but those places normally people don't live there. Normally you find properties, big properties, that they normally practice this ganaderia. Normally it's feeding cows and selling then the meat. So normally you don't see a lot of population in the north part of Paraguay, and normally that's the part of Paraguay where we can talk about terrorism and armed groups, but they are actually not so active, let's say that way, because in the past we have some kidnaps, yes, because it was these armed groups, but normally people associate this group with narco traffic, with narcos. They are, of course, coercive and violent group, but they are not active now in the present like it was in the past when there was like some political imbalance in Paraguay. So there are some cities, of course, like the frontier or the border with Brazil. One of the cities, it's called Pedro Juan Caballero, which is known to be a city where the traffic of drugs is really strong, but also you don't hear a lot of bad news about it, but
Right.
people know that normally because it's a terrestrial border, there is more likely that people practice this type of business that are illegal.
Now, if you were to live in your city, let's say a guy from Germany, let's say an American, Canadian, Australian, Singaporean, Hong Kongese wants to move to your city, and they have safety concerns because if you have never been to Latin America and all that you know about the places, what you heard on social media, what you heard in the news, you'd think that it's very dangerous and it's
Mhm.
not a safe place. Now, what would you say are some good, safe neighborhoods in Asuncion, Paraguay, where you would say, okay, if you come to these neighborhoods during any time of the day, you don't feel
Mhm.
unsafe. There's no
Mhm.
danger there.
Yeah, I think that Asuncion and every barrio in Asuncion and also the cities around like Luque. I am from this city, Luque, very close to Asuncion, Fernando de la Mora, Maria Norca. All these cities are really safety. And for example, I, as a woman, I really feel safe, because, for example, I can walk really early in the morning, also with other friends. I normally spend the day out. I am very an outside person, so normally I can walk and do all my activities outside without any type of fear. But of course, if you are a foreigner, or if you are a woman, people or your neighbor will tell you it's really dangerous, or don't go alone, don't go and walk alone or during the night or really early in the morning because it's dangerous. I think that it's the people that normally it's afraid, because I heard that many foreigner friends told me that their neighbors or their friends warn about the safety and the danger of being outside, for example, during the late night. But I personally think that it's not precise. I think that people tend to be or are lean to be more afraid of being doing outside activities. But you can see, like I'm telling you, the numbers, the statistics, they normally don't lie. So you can in Paraguay feel really safe, and in almost every city in the south of Paraguay, the where you find the cities and a lot of neighbors. You have also the police station really close to your house normally. So for me, as a Paraguayan, I never had any problems walking during the night or alone during the day. So I can say that it's very safety, at least where I lived. I lived in a lot of cities in Paraguay, almost in every part of Paraguay. So I never had any problems, and also my family didn't never had any problems.
I remember back in summer of 2022 when I visited Austria. It was actually autumn. I'm sorry, it was autumn 2022. What I experienced in autumn 2022 was scary. One morning I went out and I was taking the tram. You know, the public transportation system in Vienna, Austria is excellent. You can go pretty much anywhere without a car. We got metro, we got buses, we got the tram. It's really well connected. And that one day I went to the tram station and I'll never forget because it was during the morning. So it wasn't late at night or anything. It was during the morning. It was at 11 a.m. in the morning when I went there. And a guy in front of me, he pulled out a knife during daylight and he threatened another guy that was right next to me. And at that point, I realized that the big cities in Europe, they are no longer safe. And it was unbelievable to witness that nobody around me had the courage to call the police to report this crime. It is a crime. And so I was just shocked when this happened because it was nothing like it 50 years ago or even 30 years ago. I was in San Antonio a lot, and the southern part of San Antonio is everything but safe. You got to be very careful there. It's ghetto-ish, right? So you got to be careful where you go, and especially at night, you got to be very, very careful. And so I've been to like smaller cities in Mexico, and they're very safe. Like I had absolutely no safety concerns. And of course, the smaller cities in Europe, they're also safer than the largest cities, right? Because they have been overrun again by illegal immigrants, by drug addicts, homeless people, right? That's where those people hang out. They don't hang out at the smaller towns because they can't do what they want to do in the smaller towns. They can do it in the larger cities. So that's really good to know that safety, and you're talking from a woman's perspective, Jesse, that is
Mhm.
not a problem in your city in Asuncion. So that's really interesting to know. Now, would you say that there are any precautions that you would take or that you would advise people to take?
Yeah, I think that normally that what people advise the most here in Paraguay is that you should never have like a lot of time, for example, your cell phone, because if there is a robbery or something, normally the first thing they will take from you is your phone, for example. But I think that other precautions, like the way you dress, I don't think it's a big problem, but it's just how you are. It's more likely also if you are, for example, very distracted in the street, it's most likely that someone can come to you with bad intentions, for example. But if you're a person who is attentive when they are outside, nothing will happen to you. But the most common advice that people here in Paraguay give you is that never spend a lot of time with your phone, like walking or during the night with like putting the main attention to your phone and not to the street. But I think it's a international advice. I don't know if it's only in Paraguay or someone else in your life has ever give you this type of advice.
I think it's good advice. If you keep a low profile, you blend
Mhm.
in, you don't tell people what you have on you. And anytime you go out,
Oh,
if you have a nice phone, you don't want to show that. Even in a large city in Europe, you know, depending on where you are at, you probably don't want
mhm.
to do that. You don't want to draw the wrong attention. And so I always recommend people to have a dummy phone, like your main phone, where you have all the important stuff, important data,
Oh,
your banking applications. That phone, you should never ever carry this phone with you when you leave your home. In the event that you really should lose this phone, like your main phone, you know, you would be screwed because in order to get access to all the applications, and I think the most important applications are, of course, your banking applications. If you have Google Authenticator, or if you have some kind of a system in place that requires you to sign in with like facial recognition on your phone, And if you lose that phone, and in order for you to reactivate this on a new phone, you would have to fly back home. I mean, we're talking about serious problems. So no matter where you're located, I recommend you to never take your main phone with you, because it's a risk that you simply don't want to take. Doesn't make sense. So what you do instead, Jesse, is you have a dummy phone. Like, I've met people that have a dummy phone that is so basic that nothing's possible other than sending messages, other than incoming calls, outgoing calls. That's possible, but anything related to the internet is not possible. Do I recommend that? Maybe not, especially when you're traveling and you're new to a place. You want to have a phone that has internet and it just has the most essential applications on it, including Uber. And if you need something like Uber Eats, or if you just need Skype to make phone calls, it is okay to have these applications installed on your phone, but they're very important, they're very private, they're valuable applications that, if you lose the phone, you cannot easily reinstall because a lot of verification is necessary. Those applications should never be on your dummy phone. Have them on your main phone, and leave your main phone at home, at your apartment. If you have an Airbnb, leave it there. There's really no need to take this with you and take all the risks. So that's what I'm recommending here.
Subscribe now and turn on alerts to never miss any of my future nomadism, dating, and business advice videos. Thank you for watching.